Rebellion's call. 3 years passed in a blur of station cycles. Naira expanded her trading network to include 4 additional stations across the sector. Meanwhile, Trent excelled in his engineering training, surpassing even GRA's high expectations and earning his guild certification in record time. Their paths crossed less frequently as duties pulled them in different directions, but each encounter carried the weight of unspoken feelings, a tension neither could quite name, yet both deeply felt. The galaxy, meanwhile, slid inexorably toward conflict. Imperial taxes crippled independent merchants. Security measures became thin veils for suppression. Dissent was crushed. People disappeared, merchants who spoke too freely, engineers who refused military contracts, civilians who merely asked the wrong questions. Naira was finalizing trade accounts in her private office when the door slid open, no entry chime. Instinctively, her hand darted toward the concealed stunner beneath her desk, but froze as she recognized the figure in the doorway. Trent. The man before her barely resembled the apprentice who had left 3 years ago. His dark hair was cropped short in the practical style of those who worked in tight quarters. A thin scar traced his right cheekbone, and his open, boyish expression had hardened into something more watchful. But when their eyes met, his hazel gaze still sparked with that familiar warmth. "Security protocols have gotten lax around here," he said, his voice lower than she remembered, securing the door behind him. "You should change your access codes more often." Naira stood, unsure of the right response. Among those 3, customs surrounding physical contact after long separation were complex. But humans were different. Trent solved the dilemma for her, crossing the room in 3 strides and pulling her into a hug so fierce it stole her breath. Gone was the boy she'd mentored. He had become something else, solid, strong, and her heart fluttered in response. "I thought you were on the Centauri run until next quarter," she said once he finally released her. His smile was tight, not quite reaching his eyes. Change of plans. Only then did she notice his uniform, similar to standard engineering issue, but stripped of any imperial insignia. A chill ran through her. "You've joined them," she whispered. He nodded, unapologetic. "I made a choice." Later, in the secure living quarters behind her office, swept for surveillance by Trent's practiced hands, he explained. Resistance recruiters had spotted his talent early. They needed someone who could bypass Imperial systems, retrofit engines for stealth, and outthink every tracker the Empire threw their way. "I found myself saying yes before I even thought it through," he admitted, fingers tracing invisible patterns on the table. "But after what I've seen, Naira, the detention centers, the forced labor camps. That was reckless," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. "Was it?" His eyes burned with a fire that made her breath catch. "You've seen what's happening here. You've felt it." She couldn't argue. Just last week, a Taxian spice merchant, a fixture in the marketplace for decades, had vanished after a dispute with an Imperial tax collector. "So now you're, what, a rebel operative?" she asked, trying for levity to mask the fear in her chest. "I'm an engineer who works on ships that occasionally redistribute Imperial resources to people who need them." His grin turned roguish. It was the smile of the boy who had once stolen bruised fruit from her market stall. In the soft lighting of her quarters, Naira found herself studying him, the way 24 years had shaped him, turned him into a man whose confidence drew every eye. The years apart felt like a canyon of experiences neither had shared. "You're staring," he said, amused. "Just trying to reconcile the boy I knew with," she gestured vaguely, "this. With me?" Something electric passed between them, unspoken but undeniable. "I came back for a reason," he said, voice quieter now. "The resistance needs locals. Trusted ones. Safe houses, informants. You want to recruit me? I want to give you the choice I was given." Naira stood, needing space to think. Her people, those 3, were cautious by nature, a survival instinct honed through generations of being hunted for their empathic gifts. Joining the resistance meant constant risk. "Why did you really come back, Trent?" she asked suddenly. "I told you." "No. The truth." Her starfield eyes locked onto his. He looked startled, then softened. "Because I couldn't stay away," he said, voice nearly a whisper. "Every system I visited, every nebula I crossed. I compared it to the light in your eyes." Naira's breath caught. Among her people, words like those were not spoken lightly. "Humans don't usually speak so directly," she murmured. "Maybe that's our problem." He reached for her, fingertips brushing her cheek, a touch so gentle it belied the strength in his hands. Her skin tingled where he touched. Street physiology reacted to emotion, and Trent was practically broadcasting his. "There are differences between us," she managed. His smile turned challenging. "I've always been a quick study. This isn't like fixing a cooling unit." "No," he agreed, thumb tracing the curve of her lower lip. "It's infinitely more complex, and infinitely more important." The kiss came as a question. Naira's answer was immediate, arms sliding around his neck as their lips met, deepened, and discovered. Later, as station lights filtered through window slats and cast silver across tangled sheets, Naira traced the new scars on his body, each a chapter in the story of their time apart. Their joining had been both foreign and familiar, bridging physiology and culture in ways neither expected. "I never imagined this," she whispered against his chest. "What?" "Us. All of it. You, a rebel. Me, an accomplice." She propped herself up. "This." He looked at her with quiet certainty. "I think part of me's been finding my way back to you since the day you caught me stealing fruit." Outside, Imperial patrols passed, reminders of the danger now entwined with their reunion. But here, in this room, wrapped in one another's arms, they'd built something the Empire could not touch. The desperate gambit. The bustling marketplace of Stellar Junction Station hummed with activity. Merchants from 24 star systems displayed their exotic wares in colorful stalls lining the curved walkways. The air was thick with the mingling scents of alien spices and the constant babble of a dozen languages. Among the crowd, a thin human boy moved with practiced stealth. His worn jacket, several sizes too large, concealed quick, nimble hands. Trent kept his head low, dark hair falling across watchful hazel eyes that scanned continuously for security drones. At 16, he had already mastered the art of invisibility, a necessary skill for human orphans on this border station, where Imperial law offered little protection to those without credits or connections. His target today was the fruit stand owned by a violet-skinned Zintri merchant. Her exotic produce fetched premium prices, but Trent had noticed how she set aside the bruised or misshapen items, perfect for the 6 hungry orphans waiting in the abandoned maintenance shaft he called home. "Just 3 pieces," he whispered to himself, fingers twitching as he calculated the timing. "Quick and clean." The merchant turned to help a customer with crystalline skin, and Trent made his move. With practiced ease, he slipped behind the display, palming 2 bruised starfruits and a lopsided melon. He was nearly clear when a slender, purple hand clamped around his wrist. "Got you, little thief." Trent looked up into the most unsettling eyes he'd ever seen, completely black, flecked with tiny specks that looked like stars. The merchant was younger than he thought, perhaps in her mid-20s, with luminous violet skin and flowing silver hair that shimmered with its own light. "Let go," Trent hissed, twisting in her grip. "So you can run off with my goods," she said, raising a sharp eyebrow. "I don't think so." "They're just bruised," Trent said, desperation creeping into his voice. "You can't even sell them at full price." Something in his tone made her pause. Her starfield eyes narrowed, studying him with unexpected intensity. "You're not stealing for yourself, are you?" she asked, her grip loosening slightly. Before he could answer, a commotion erupted at the edge of the marketplace. Imperial security drones, conducting a surprise inspection. Standard procedure on border stations, but deadly for unregistered orphans. The merchant noticed Trent's fear. Security? He nodded tightly. To his shock, she yanked him behind the stall and lifted a panel in the floor. Down. Now. Trent hesitated only a second before dropping into the narrow storage space. The merchant followed and closed the panel just as heavy, metallic footsteps approached. They crouched together in the dark, bodies pressed uncomfortably close. She smelled like cinnamon and starflowers. "Why are you helping me?" Trent whispered. "Quiet," she murmured, her breath warm against his ear. Footsteps stopped directly above. A mechanical voice barked, "Identification and trading permit." "Merchant," she replied calmly, passing credentials through a small slot. "Of course, officer. Human biosigns detected in this sector. Just me and my assistant. Perhaps your sensors need calibration. The Hubbian spice cellar uses human labor." A pause. "Permit verified. Proceed with your business, citizen." When the drones finally moved on, the merchant pushed open the panel and climbed out, extending a hand to help Trent. "I'm Naira," she said. "And you're going to tell me exactly why you were stealing my fruit." The unexpected mentor. 30 minutes later, Naira sat across from Trent in the modest living quarters behind her stall, watching him devour the first proper meal he'd had in weeks. "6 orphans," she echoed, disbelief coloring her voice. "And you're taking care of all of them?" Trent nodded, swallowing a mouthful. "The youngest is 6. Imperial mining accident took her parents last year. The others have similar stories." "And the station authorities?" His laugh was bitter, too old for his years. "Authorities on Stellar Junction? They just ship orphans off to labor camps. Humans don't exactly rank high in the Empire's consideration." Naira studied him thoughtfully. "So instead of looking out for just yourself, you're risking Imperial detention to feed 5 other children?" "What else would I do?" Trent asked simply. Something shifted in her expression, respect, perhaps. Or understanding. She stood abruptly and began filling a crate with food. "Take this," she said, pushing it toward him. "And come back tomorrow. I could use help unloading shipments. Actual paid work." Trent stared at her, suspicious. "Why would you help me? I tried to steal from you." Naira's lips curved into a smile that transformed her face. "Because beneath that thief's mask is something rare in this part of space, a good heart." She leaned closer, her voice softening. "And maybe I'm tired of watching the Empire crush good hearts." As Trent left with the crate of food, neither of them could have known how their futures had just become irrevocably intertwined. Or that the small act of mercy from a violet-skinned merchant to a desperate human thief would one day alter the fate of an entire sector.